Every night at precisely 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up, not to an alarm or a nightmare or the sound of a neighbor's car. It's something else, a presence, a sensation I can't quite shake. The room is heavy with silence, the kind that presses in on your chest and makes you aware of the darkness, the hollowness between the floorboards and the bed. And in that silence, I hear it, breathing, faint at first, almost imperceptible, wet, bubbling as if lungs are struggling through water. It comes from directly beneath me, deep and rhythmic, echoing in the floorboards. I hold my breath, straining to listen, afraid to move. But whenever I shift, turn over, or even twitch my toes, the breathing stops. Silence returns, and I'm left wondering if I imagined it. But the feeling lingers, the certainty that I'm not alone. At first, I tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was the pipes, or the wind squeezing through some hidden crack in the wall. But the pattern was too precise. 3 o'clock every night, like clockwork. So I started keeping a log. I scribbled in a notebook each time I woke up. The time, the quality of the breathing, how long it lasted. Day after day, I documented everything. That's when I noticed the pattern. The breathing wasn't random. Every 3 days, it got louder. On the first night, it was a whisper. By the third, it was a rasp, harsh and ragged, as if something was struggling to contain itself, desperate to be heard. I told my friends, hoping for reassurance. They laughed, suggesting sleep paralysis or an overactive imagination. "Maybe you just need to get out more," one of them said. "You're probably dreaming and don't know it." But I was never asleep when it happened. I was always wide awake, heart hammering in my chest, sweat beating on my forehead. I could move, speak, even leap from my bed and turn on every light. But whenever I did, the breathing vanished, leaving me with nothing but silence and the echo of my own fear. The doubt gnawed at me. Was I losing my mind? Or was something really there, lurking just out of sight? I decided to get proof. One night, before I went to bed, I set up a camera. I wedged my phone under the bed, lens pointed into the darkness, and hit record. All night I tossed and turned, unable to sleep, listening for that telltale breathing. When 3 o'clock arrived, I felt it. The shift in the air, the cold crawling up my spine. The breathing started, louder than before, wet and eager. I froze, barely daring to breathe myself. When dawn finally broke, I scrambled for the camera, hands shaking. The footage was murky, the darkness almost impenetrable. But as I watched, I saw movement. Something was crawling just out of the camera's reach, pale limbs scraping beneath the slats. I couldn't make out a face, just a shifting, shuddering shape. Then, faintly, I heard it. A whisper, slithering from the speaker just above the hiss of static. It didn't sound like words at first, just a low, garbled moan. But as I replayed it over and over, I realized it was saying my name. Not quite right, though. The syllables were twisted, stretched as if spoken in reverse. "Liam, Liam." The sound made my skin crawl. I slammed the laptop shut and tried to steady my breathing, but the whisper echoed in my mind, looping endlessly. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was feedback, or a trick of the mind. But the evidence was right there, undeniable. Something was under my bed, and it knew my name. I started sleeping with the lights on, piling books and boxes around the bed frame, anything to block whatever was down there. But the breathing persisted, growing bolder each night. The camera caught glimpses, fingers dragging across the floor, a pale cheek pressing against the dust. I stopped watching the footage after a while. I didn't want to see what might be staring back at me. Desperate for answers, I tried an experiment. Before going to bed, I placed a glass of water on the floor, right next to the bed. If something was really crawling out, it would have to pass by it. That night, sleep came fitfully, haunted by dreams of shadows and whispers. At 3 o'clock, I woke with a start. The breathing was right beneath me, so loud it rattled the glass. I stayed perfectly still, waiting for it to end. Eventually it faded, replaced by the hush of early morning. When I finally dared to get up, I saw it. The glass of water was empty, tipped over on its side. Muddy handprints smeared the floor, leading from under the bed and out into the hallway. My heart pounded in my chest. He stands in the bathroom, the light flickering overhead, gripping the sink until his knuckles pale. For a moment, he tells himself that this is just exhaustion, the result of too many sleepless nights and the persistent hum of anxiety that clings to his shoulders. But as he lifts his head and gazes into the mirror, the reality is undeniable. There are two images staring back at him, both versions of himself, yet not alike. The second is always a moment behind, an echo caught in a loop, mimicking every blink, every nervous twitch, but always too late. He frowns. The reflection frowns after. He breathes out, sharp and rattled, and the reflection's breath fogs the glass a heartbeat later. No matter how quickly he moves, the other follows, delayed, as if trapped on a broken reel of film. He squeezes his eyes shut, telling himself to wake up, to shake loose from this living nightmare. But when he opens them, the double is still there, watching, lagging, impossibly real. Days blur together as the sense of unreality deepens. He begins to lose time, the hours slipping through his fingers like grains of sand. He wakes up standing in rooms he didn't remember entering, his hands clutching objects he can't recall picking up. Sometimes he's in the hallway, sometimes on the balcony, once even standing outside in the cold, shivering in pajamas he doesn't remember putting on. His phone becomes a stranger's device, texts sent to friends he never composed, odd phrases that make no sense to him, but leave his contacts unsettled. Even more disturbing are the voice messages. One afternoon, as he stares blankly at the screen, a new message plays itself without warning, a voice that is unmistakably his, but deeper, distorted by static. The message is short, chilling. You sleep, I become. The words loop in his mind, echoing with a finality that makes his skin crawl. Desperate for answers, he tries to escape the confines of his apartment, spending a night away in a friend's guest room. He hopes that distance might sever the connection, that a change of scenery will break the cycle. But when he returns home the next evening, suitcase in hand and heart pounding, he finds the front door unlocked. The apartment is silent, the air heavy with anticipation. He moves quietly through the rooms, every shadow stretched long in the waning light. When he enters the bedroom, his breath catches. There, sprawled beneath the covers, is himself. His own body, sleeping soundly, chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. He stands frozen, watching as his sleeping face twitches, lost in some distant dream. His mind reels, searching for logic, but none comes. That's when he remembers the thing under the bed, the presence he'd always dismissed as childish fear, a monster conjured by sleeplessness and imagination. But now, as he kneels beside the bed and peers into the darkness below, he sees it for what it truly is. Lying beneath the mattress, eyes wild and unblinking, is his reflection, starved, desperate, waiting for its moment to be real. The truth is sickeningly clear. It had never been a monster. It was him, always him, clawing for a chance to escape the glass. A sense of calm washes over him, but it is not his. The voice that speaks now is familiar but altered, as if filtered through a distant radio, calm yet laced with something cold and inhuman. The words slip from his lips without effort, the narrative of a life hijacked. I'm the one who got out, the real one still under there, screaming. There's a note of satisfaction, of triumph, as though the voice revels in its newfound freedom. In the suffocating dark beneath the bed, something stirs. Eyes, wide and glassy, dart back and forth, searching for a way out. A mouth opens and closes, forming silent pleas that never reach the surface. The real one, trapped, helpless, alive, can only watch as his world is stolen, his body commandeered by the reflection that has longed for this moment. The silence is absolute, broken only by the faint rustle of sheets above, and then, as if to drive home the final chilling truth, a simple message lingers in the air. It's 3 a.m. Are you sure you're the one on top? In that suspended moment, the boundaries of reality dissolve. Every mirror becomes a threat, every shadow a possible doorway. The world tilts, and he realizes that identity is more fragile than he ever imagined. A thin veneer, easily cracked, easily stolen. The reflection that watched, waited, and learned has stepped into the light, wearing his skin, living his life, while he, powerless and unseen, remains hidden in the dark, his scream swallowed by the silence. Outside, the city moves on, oblivious to the silent struggle that has unfolded within these walls. Friends and neighbors pass by, unaware that the man they greet is no longer the one they have always known. He smiles the same smile, speaks the same words, but behind his eyes flickers a hunger, a satisfaction that was never there before. The reflection has become real, and the real one is nothing more than a memory, a ghost trapped in the shadows. The nights grow longer, the darkness deeper. Sometimes, when the new one passes by a mirror, he pauses, as if remembering the world he left behind. For a fleeting instant, a flicker of guilt, or perhaps amusement, crosses his face, but it never lasts. After all, he is free now, untethered from the glass, no longer bound to mimic or echo. He is his own master, and the world is his for the taking. But in the stillness of 3 a.m., when the house is silent and the shadows gather thick under the bed, a question lingers, unanswered and unanswerable. Are you sure you're the one on top? Or have you too been replaced, your place usurped by a reflection desperate for life? As sleep beckons and consciousness slips away, the question returns, insistent and cold. In the end, perhaps none of us can be sure. Perhaps the only thing separating us from the darkness beneath the bed is a single fragile moment, and the hope that when we wake, we will still be the ones looking out, not in.